Here with Concordia head women's basketball coach Drew Olson to preview the 2015-16 season. First, we'll talk about some of the rules changes that have been made for starting this year. Obviously, the ones that people are going to notice are 4 quarters instead of halves now. Also, shooting free throws on every 5th foul of each quarter. And then you also have the ability now to advance the ball to half court in the last minute of 4th quarter and overtimes. Have you approached your team about some of these changes? What have you told them about these things?
We actually haven't talked about the changes. I mean, I wrote an email informing them of the changes, but I'm not sure how big of a factor it's going to be. You just, like the 4 quarters, just means you get the timeout at the 10-minute mark. It's the same length of game. I think the fouls and the bonus is a little bit interesting, just because we are an aggressive team. You know, we've got to be a little bit more careful that we don't get into that early into a quarter, but we do get the benefit of the second and the 4th quarters. It'd start over again, but you know, it is kind of a high risk, high reward, because you might be giving up 2 free throws as opposed to the 1-and-1. So it'll be interesting. I don't know how big of a factor it's going to be, but we'll see.
Is there anything you plan on doing to prep your team, or is it more they just have to get into game situations and get used to it then?
Yeah, I think once we kind of get the feel of it, and especially how officials call the game early on in the season, we've got to adjust quickly. But that's how it is every season, I feel like. You know, you just got to get in a couple games and then you get a better feel for it.
Now, shifting to previewing this season, last year obviously was a thrilling run to the national championship game. How have you approached your team about kind of turning the page and moving on now?
Well, I think every season is different and unique. You know, every season you've got new players, and you've lost a few players from the previous season. Now, you know, obviously we lost a lot of key players from last year's team, so that changes our team, and it's been kind of fun coaching. It's a new challenge. It's kind of a new dynamic of we're all trying to learn new roles and figure out how to win with this team, as opposed to the last couple of years. Like, you know, we come into the season, we know that Bailey is kind of the star player and Tracy Pites is going to do her thing, and so it's just a little bit different now that we have a new group, and kids are all going to have to step up and kind of fulfill different roles.
Now, I mean, you replace a couple Gary Bertiers now, as you mentioned, or try to. Obviously, you don't want one player to think that they have to be Bailey Morris or Tracy Pites. How do you lessen the pressure a little bit on some of them that have bigger roles now?
Well, like I said, just everybody's got to kind of take on a different role, and like you said, not one person is going to replace, you know, a different person, but you find out what your role is for the team that season, and all the pieces will fit together that way. But like you said, you can't replace a Bailey Morris with one player. You can't replace a Tracy Pites or a Kelsey Heiser or Jerica. You just you do what you can for the team. You highlight your strengths and have all those strengths together, then we form our own team. So each season is unique and different, and I know this team's going to find a way to win.
Now you have the GPAC Freshman of the Year back, Mary Janovich. She was fantastic last year, particularly down the stretch. She was great at the national tournament. Now she has more pressure last year she was more of a secondary option behind some of the players we talked about. How has she embraced a role now as more of a go-to player?
I don't even know if she has to have that kind of mentality or if she feels that kind of pressure, just especially with our team. Like, it's just a different team. I'm not sure we really have a go-to player. It's, you know, I think with this team, everybody is capable on each night, and I think Mary knows that she's going to be a little bit more aggressive, and she's capable of doing that. It just, she also needs to play within herself. She doesn't have to do more than what she's capable of, and that's kind of the beauty of this team, is that we don't have a dominant player, but they're all capable. They're all fairly scary in their own way.
Is what we saw from Mary at the national tournament kind of what you expect to see carry over into this year?
Well, I hope she can shoot like 75% from three. That'd be nice. But I think that I think she's just going to have to continue to find her own shots and maybe look to create a little bit more than she did last year. But yeah, I mean she's an awesome defender. She's very capable of knocking down threes. And again, kind of advancing her game, maybe being a little bit more aggressive this season.
Now, there were several others as freshmen who got opportunities: Brenly Dahm, Jade Gaudier, and Laurel Crone, who's a redshirt freshman. What have you seen from them throughout the off season that makes you confident they're ready for increased minutes?
Well, all three of them had awesome summers. Jade's really improved her ball handling skills, and she just keeps getting better each day. We need her to be a little bit more consistent, but I think that's true for most of our young players that don't have a ton of experience. I think Brenly Dahm is the one that has been the most consistent of those three. When she shoots it, you just know it's going in. And Laurel is getting there. Like, you could see it in the summer, her confidence, and she's another one that she's got to get a little bit more consistent, but she can really shoot it. She's a tough ball handler, and she's a fighter. She's a winner. So I expect all three to really help us this season.
And now Becky Mueller is really the most experienced player on the team now, having been a starter the last 2 years. How important is her kind of quiet leadership maybe and her ability to shoot from the outside as well?
Yeah, I think she's a player that could kind of carry us in some tough moments this season. She's a really different player because she can really stretch the defense, but she's playing the five for us. But her post game has really improved, and we expect really big things out of her. It's kind of interesting since she's a junior athletically, but she's actually going to be done after this season. So I can tell that the sense of urgency is there for her as a senior. She knows this is her last run, and she wants to make a great season of it. So
I know you'll be counting on some freshmen this year as well. What do you like, Maddie Egger from UTAN, Nebraska, and Quinn Rogge from Crofton? What do you like about what they can do?
Yeah, both of them are really talented. Quinn is a player that you don't really have to do anything for. She's gonna find her way to score. She's so athletic, and she just really has a good understanding of the game. Coming from Crofton, she hasn't really lost a whole lot, and so that kind of winning mentality and that competitiveness is there. With Maddie, I think the potential's there to be a big star. I think she's still got to kind of understand what we're wanting out of her, and she's got to figure out where her moments are to be aggressive. But I think that she could be a really, really good player. Hopefully it's this year, but I know it's coming soon.
Now, even with some of the key losses that we've already talked about, you have 8 players back that have some kind of national tournament experience. How key could that be? Even if they didn't get a lot of minutes, they've been part of a winning program, and they know what it's like to be in those situations.
Yeah, exactly right. Like they know how to win. They know what it takes to win. They understand the culture of the team, and it is a really good group. They're working really hard. Again, they have to take different roles, and they have to find out how to win together and find out how to win with this team. But I think it's going to happen, and I know that they're working hard for it to happen.
I think you got to adjust every year a little bit to the personnel that you have, but how much different do you think this team will look just stylistically?
I hope not too much. I mean, we're trying to do all the same things, and our first scrimmage is this Friday, so we'll kind of see where we're at after that. But we still want to play very up tempo. We still want to pressure a lot, and I think we have the depth to do it. It's just a matter of, can we get the consistency out of everybody to be able to do that.
The GPAC had all 4 teams in the national semifinals last year. I know a lot of teams are in that boat where they've lost some really good players, but you always expect the league to be good. How do you see the conference shaping up for 2015-16?
Well, it's going to be really tough. Obviously, Morningside is loaded. They bring almost everybody back. Adding College of St. Mary's, there's another team that was at the national tournament, and they don't lose much. Their best post players back, so they're going to be very good. I know Briarcliff will be strong, and then you've got teams that actually weren't at the tournament. Dort's going to be better. Dakota Wesleyan, I think, is going to be really, really good. And just I think the whole league as a whole, like, it's going to be tough. There's not really any easy games, and so us knowing that we have a target on our back, even though we're not the same team, I think it's going to be a really big challenge each game.
This year you go to a 22-game conference schedule with St. Mary coming in. As you mentioned, another solid program. This year you have 8 non-conference games on the regular season schedule with the usual CIT trip, and then you're also going to California. What was the strategy behind this year's out-of-conference schedule?
Well, you always want to challenge your team and try to get them ready for the season. I think the Jamestown and Mayville State early on in the season is going to be a tough challenge. I'm not sure that was the smartest of scheduling, but I know that's going to be a good matchup for us, and it's going to prepare us for the conference. I think the California trip's a fun trip, and it's going to be 2 other tough teams, but we also get to see somebody new and have a different style play against us. So, we're looking forward to it.
Now, after a season like last year, how do you measure success this year and coming off that?
Yeah, you can't expect us to be at the national title game again. I just expect us to get better every day. I expect us to continue to improve, and hopefully we reach our potential. And I don't really know what that is right now until we really get into games. But I don't set any goals like that. I just think that's unrealistic and not fair for each team.